We are here. We are here. What's going on? It's your boy, the coach. Welcome back to the Coach's Huddle where the field meets family. And don't look now, but it's a Monday. It's cover two, and I got my boy Jesse Naylor on the channel with me. What's going on, Jess? How you doing?
Full government, man. I feel super special. I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I mean, for the way we see it right now is we're in dead period. There's nothing really better to do but to basically scratch and scrounge at any piece of news that's come across the airwaves. And really, the fact is that we're just getting ready for camp. We're ready for camp. But we did get some news today. There's a couple of things that I want to touch on, but let's just talk with the lead. What we've all been looking at, basically, it's been dominating the sports headlines. Jalen Ramsay is traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers from the Miami Dolphins. The official trade is the Steelers received Jalen Ramsay, tight end Jonnu Smith, and the 2027 seventh overall pick. The Dolphins received safety Minkah Fitzpatrick, actually going back to his original drafted team down in Miami, and they also received a 2027 fifth round pick. Initial reactions first. How do you feel about it?
Well, my initial reaction was like, why the hell did they announce it as the Jalen Ramsay trade when Minkah Fitzpatrick is the better of the two players? That didn't make any sense to me. I was shocked. I think the way that it probably rolled out, the way that it probably rolled out was the agent and Jalen Ramsay leaked it to kind of get out in front, and then the details started to come in. But looking at it from a 49er perspective, because this trade does have implications on the 49ers, believe it or not. I know that this is two teams in the AFC, on the surface. How does this impact the 49ers? I think it impacts the 49ers in a big way because Jalen Ramsay said he wanted to play for a West Coast team. A lot of people inserted the 49ers into that, but the most realistic place for him to end up on a West Coast team was the Rams, which is an in-division team. And you can say what you want about Jalen Ramsay. Oh, he's not as good as he once was, not a number one. Either way, if he would have came in for a draft pick, he would have helped the Rams be better right now this year. And the fact that that is not happening, that is a big deal in my opinion, because the 49ers do have ground to make up between them and the Rams. Adding Ramsay wouldn't have helped their cause. So this, to me, has implications in a positive way for the 49ers and the rest of the division that isn't the Rams, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I like the deal because I think that it kind of just keeps guys away from us that don't need to be in the division. I could not stand for the Rams to get better. Right now, I mean, there seems to be a little bit of a delusion going on about who is the best team in the NFC West. It is the Los Angeles Rams. And the last thing we want is them getting any stronger. One thing that I will say is that I did kind of think, I mean, listen, I'll give it to you. I do believe that if you had to pick who was better, yes, Minkah Fitzpatrick is the better of the two players. However, I just kind of think it was a wash. I mean, if you really look at what Miami is doing and what they get, they lost a big-time safety. I mean, replacing it with Minkah Fitzpatrick is good, but it's necessarily a patch, not what they lost. And then if you look at the Steelers, I mean, really, they don't have anything at secondary. They actually needed a guy like Jalen Ramsay to come into the fold, but I don't know if he's actually a plus contributor for what they need. So to be honest, I don't think that I think both of those teams are going to struggle this year, quite honestly. I think that, coming in with Aaron Rodgers, the Steelers are the biggest candidate for me right now to just be kind of like the biggest flame out. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is going to put out all of his best tricks at everything that he could do within the first 5 games of the season, and then you'll really see who both of those teams are. The same thing with Tua. I really believe that they deserve each other. It's not necessarily a deal where anybody's actually got better. What do you feel on closing it out?
Yeah, I mean, Minkah Fitzpatrick to me is the best player of the deal, but I do think that on paper the Steelers got better because they did get Jonnu Smith as well. I mean, Jonnu Smith was a Pro Bowl tight end last year. And it begs the question, like, is Ramsay going to play safety? Like, is he willing to do that? Because them losing Minkah, you already had Darius Slade that you brought in, and you have Porter. Those are your 1 and 2 corners. So where's Ramsay going to play? I mean, Porter's not coming off the field. You would imagine that Slade's going to play. So is Ramsey going to play the star role? Is he going to play safety? I don't know exactly where he fits in, but I think overall, Jonnu Smith definitely helps. And then they have some younger safeties there in Pittsburgh as well that are trying to get on the field. So maybe it opens up things for them. I don't know. I mean, the trade it's whatever. I don't think it's a game changer for either team. I think initially it was like, whoa, Mika Fitzpatrick, but Mika's 28, and I would say that he's declined slightly over the last couple years. Ramsey certainly isn't what he is. It's some big names, and I don't know. Pittsburgh is doing something a little bit different this offseason. Normally they're like, go through the draft, be patient, but they've been making a ton of trades this year. That is not like them, making a lot of splash signings. So, they clearly feel desperate to do something different and try to win this year. I just don't know that it will pan out. Yeah, that's fine. But Slay also he was a baller last year. Go look at what he did last year, going against number one receivers week in and week out. Darius Slay balled out.
Yeah, definitely. Darius Slay actually did have a great season last year. Kind of a bounce back season from what we saw was going to be a downturn in the season before. So if anything, he's trending up, to be honest with you. One thing I do look at this trade though is that I love the fact that the Niners were nowhere near this. Now we already know that now that the trade is over, we can always get that quintessential, hey, you do know that the Niners offered a blah, 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 and a blah, 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 blah for Jalen Ramsey, and he got turned down. So we obviously know that stories of, missed opportunities are going to come out, but I'm glad that we weren't around this one. It definitely was something that I floated if we were just trying to put somebody and spend the money on, but I don't necessarily think that this was anything that was going to make the Niners better. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think if he was willing to play safety, I was all for it because I look at it as not just a 1-year play. I mean, this is a guy that can do that for the next few years, help you bridge that gap. I would have been all for it. I I think if anything though, if he wasn't going to play safety, it was playing keep away from the Rams, which is like, all right, I don't know that would have excited me that much either.
Yeah, 100%. So look, and you know what? I'm gonna jut in one more. I'm gonna jut in one more topic, a surprise topic, before we get to the main part of the show. But I didn't necessarily get to talk to you about this, and this is going to be awesome because we basically talked like maybe 2 or 3 times today, and I did not bring this up to you. Deommodore Lenor and the incident with him throwing the keys or basically evading or keeping the keys away from an officer who was trying to have an active investigation on one of the friends that he was with at the time, trying to get access to a car. That's the way I see it. The way I read the entire altercation is Deommodore Lenor was out with a group of friends. One of those group of friends was a target of an investigation by law enforcement. Law enforcement then followed that person that was with Deommodore Lenor, and there was suspicion of a firearm, or maybe there was some type of information about maybe a possible firearm being either inside of the car, and Deommodore Lenor was in possession of the keys to the vehicle and was instructed to hand over the keys, and he evaded and did not do so. And because of that, he was arrested for impeding on an active investigation. Did I get all of that?
Yeah, I mean, unless something changed, I think they were double parked. Police went to like check it out, get them to move their cars, realized there was a firearm on, I think, the passenger seat or in the car of one of his friends. Asked for the keys or asked to get possession of it. The friend tossed the keys to Lenor. Lenore then didn't give him to the cops, tossed him to another friend, and then they were both taken into custody because of it. So he was out pretty early. I mean, as far as like crimes go, like this is about as petty as it can get. Like to me, this is not a big deal as far as what's his record going to look like. It may not even hold up in the court of law. It might completely get dropped. Don't be shocked if it does. That wouldn't surprise me at all. It's just so
Right.
small, so petty. The league most likely won't do anything with it. hopefully they don't do anything with it, but that is the biggest thing to look out for, because the league's ruling versus court of law, those are two completely different things. I think at the very least, or maybe even the very most, Demo's guilty of having boneheaded friends.
Mm-hmm.
That much is true. But also, don't be stupid, man. You've got too much to lose. This is absolutely crazy. I mean, for a guy who has spent all offseason running his mouth about other players in the league and being a number one corner and knowing that
Mm-hmm.
he's taking over the cornerback room from Charvarius Ward and is the veteran now in the room.
Which we will get to.
We will get to it. It's just, to me, it was disappointing. Not the end of the world. Overall, I still view Deommodore Lenor as a good player. From what I know about him, watching him at Oregon, good guy. Momentary lapse in judgment, definitely stupid, not excusing it by any means. Overall, I don't think it's going to go too far. I actually don't think he'll get suspended either. But these are
Mm-hmm.
things that you can't have in your 40 days away from the team. When I look at the 49ers and what they've turned into with Shanahan and Lynch, they've done a great job of not having these off the field incidences even make any noise at all. And so for this to happen, yes, it's small, but it's new for them. It is something that they're not used to. And it's disappointing. It's disappointing, but also not the end of the world. So
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're a million miles away from that situation.
yeah.
Even if we read the exact police report, for me, I feel the same way. You know, you can't prevent a situation like that. I mean, that's kind of like you don't go out with anybody, you're not with anybody. I will say that, you know, throwing the keys, you got to be better than that. I mean, come on, man. Hand the keys over. Like honestly, they got the keys anyway. Okay, that's number one. And number two, the only thing that makes you a part of this situation is the fact that you made yourself a part of the situation by throwing the keys. Just hand the keys over, man. And if there was anybody who was with you that, you know, would have ascertained that you are less of a friend because you handed over keys where there was a firearm involved, like, what do you want me to do, bro? Like, I'm the freaking starting cornerback for the San Francisco 49ers. What do you want? What do you expect me to do right now? Throw my entire career away over this situation? But at the same time, when you're young and you're with young people, which are your friends, you know, sometimes people just tend to just stand on business. So, like I said, I will say this. I do believe that there might be something from the league because of this. There may be a fine. I don't expect there to be any missed games or anything like that.
No.
But yeah, I'm glad that it could have been a whole different situation. So I'm glad that it wasn't that. So let's move on because because to be honest with you, we have done fairly well with no drama offseason. We've been really good with keeping the drama pretty low. So I really want this one to go away. So let's move on to the bulk of the show. And that's basically the title of the show, Captain's Meetings, Expectations and Standards. Right now, we've got about 7 guys on the team that are leaders that me and Jesse have had conversations about that we feel are leaders on the team. We feel as though that all of these players have Super Bowl experience. They've all been to at least one. And there are expectations and standards that we will have to see from every last one of these leaders on the team in order for the 49ers to have success. There's one quote that I gave Jesse about this topic when we were prepping for the show. And I said that if there were a group of players that you put in a room where the expectation would be we are winning the Super Bowl this year, it would be this group of players. It'd be these group of guys on the team. And I feel like it's important to have a show like this, being as though that we have so much transition on the team. There's a lot of young guys. There's a lot of second-year guys. We have guys that we've already brought in from different enclaves. And to be honest, I feel like our our culture is a little bit in the balance right now. And these guys that we're going to bring up, they represent that Super Bowl window culture. They represent the quest for six, the we are having this Super Bowl in Santa Clara, this Super Bowl. So what we're going to do is we're going to name these players, and then what we'll do is we'll talk about the expectations and the standards of what these players need to do individually for the upcoming season, and from a leader standpoint, what can they do to bring up the room, right? Each of these players are not the same position. All of them are the leaders of their own position group, and we're going to start with the first position group, which is the defensive line. And the leader of the defensive line is none only than Nicholas Bosa. So let's start, Jess, with Nick Bosa. Expectations and standards for this team to be able to keep the culture alive for the quest for six. What say you, Nick Bosa?
Yeah, I mean, we can kind of go back and forth. The first thing that comes to mind is this is where the team is the most vulnerable. This is where the team spent most of their draft capital, but they're relying on such young players to make impacts. And that can be troublesome for a multitude of different reasons. One, you've got a group of guys that are all learning the league. That is tough in itself. Then you've got a group of guys that are that young that are also expected to make it throughout the course of the season. That is very, very tough. And if any one of those guys don't live up to expectations early, the whole unit can falter. That's a lot of pressure on three rookies. So that's where Nick Bosa comes in. And, Nick Bosa, I don't think is going to be this big time vocal leader or anything like that. That is not the expectation from him. But he can lead from a technique aspect. He can be the guy to pull other players to the side and be like, hey, when you're doing this, mix in this move here. Let me show you how to use your hands here. Hey, if this offensive lineman gets in your shoulder pads, here's what you can do. Like, he's going to have to turn into a little bit of a coach on the field and seek out those opportunities. It's not enough to just sit back and let them come to you and ask you questions. Sometimes they don't even know what questions to ask. And you've got to imagine it can be a little intimidating. Guys are trying to fit in. They're trying to make an impact on the team. Again, there's so much pressure. Going out of your way to ask questions is not how everybody operates. So Nick Bosa, in practice situations, in-game situations, when he's not on the field, can't just be a guy who's getting water on the sideline, resting up, getting ready to go do his thing. He's going to have to actively look for those situations and seek out those coaching opportunities to make his teammates better. Because ultimately, if he can make those guys better and get them to raise their games, that makes his life a lot easier as well.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll add in right here. This is Nick Bosa's 2024 regular season stat totals. And when you're looking at it right now, some of the biggest things that count out to me are the defensive snap counts. Nick is actually clipping at, there's some games where Nick has damn near had 70 snaps. He's clipping in the 60%, the 60 mark, over in the high 50s. But usually, customarily, Nick has always been in the low 40s. That's when he's been his best. The biggest thing that I would say that Nick Bosa has to do is he's just got to understand that he is going to play this season. There's not going to be a lot of time for him to get rest, like you said. And the biggest thing that I'd like for Nick to do is actually just start being more productive. If you just look at some of the games that he's came out with, Jesse, I mean, some of these games he just didn't turn on. Detroit, he gave us 8 combined tackles, 5 solo tackles. But come on, man. We're going against the Jets. We literally have 1 tackle, combined 2 tackles. All right. He played 48 snaps. He only had 2 QB hits. Didn't give us anything. We're looking at the Rams. 1 tackle, 1 assisted tackle, combining for 2 combined tackles total and 1 QB hit. He's just disappearing, right? One thing that you got to do with a guy that's getting paid like this is that the reason why I put Nick's stats up is that when you get paid the money that a Nick Bosa is getting paid, the dead numbers matter. It's not enough to keep going with context, because the money that you're getting paid you don't get paid with context. you get paid a flat number. So the reason why I put these numbers up is that because, we're looking at numbers that weren't necessarily eye popping. And then on top of it, we got 3 missed games, right? So, I'll tell you this, man. The biggest thing that I see from Nick is he needs to be able to not only stay on the field, but be a certain level of player consistently throughout the entire game. You can't disappear on this. Another thing that I've seen from him is that, yes, we are going to have to get more from Nick when it comes to bringing up the young pups who want to learn from him. One thing about Mikael Williams is that we already know that the biggest thing that he needs to work on is his pass rush. He needs to be able to start working on his pass rush plan. None more than somebody to be able to learn from than Nick Bosa. I just feel as though that, Jesus Christ, when's the last time he's been Nick Bosa? 2022?
Yeah, it definitely does feel like it's been a minute for sure.
It's been a while.
It's funny because that's one of the things that I put down is sacks aren't everything, but they are something, right? And so, there is a point where it's like you do have to finish. You do. Those numbers don't mean everything, right? But they do mean something. And having 10.5 sacks as a guy who's paid like you are, it doesn't look great.
That's cheeks.
Now when you watch snap in and snap out, it's not like Bosa's not having an impact. I get that, but he's going to have to finish at times. He's going to have to at least close at times and be the reason why maybe the defense gets off the field in crucial situations. And the way that you can do that is by closing and getting the sack. So it's certainly going to be needed. I do want to bring up a comment that Niner Nation brought up because he says, "Isn't that what the D-line coach is for?" And absolutely. But that's only one set of eyes. And when you're paid, I don't know what you do for a living, Niner Nation. Maybe you're younger or maybe you just haven't been in the leadership role. I don't know. But I will tell you that when you get paid big time money, you're not just a player. You're not just an individual anymore. There is expectations that go with that, especially when you're getting a captain's patch. And any coach that is worth his salt is going to put together a coalition of employees, or in this case, players that have their back and help them and are kind of their eyes, and they'll bounce ideas off of them. Hey, I saw this. What did you see from them? Hey, can you help me here? I'm going to be focusing on these guys. Nick Bosa has to be more than just showing up on the field and being a great player as an individual. He's going to have to seek out those opportunities and help out those young players. And again, even if we're taking the selfish route and saying, okay, he's not those things, just be a player, by helping those guys out, it's going to make his job easier. The better those guys are, the easier it is for him to go get the numbers that he's looking to get. It just is. So he needs to be more than just a hired gun. I'm sorry.
$34 million a year is not 9 to 5 money. No. I'm sorry. It's not. Right? $30+ million a year is not, I get my job done, let's use context money. I'm sorry. It's not. It's not. So, we also, if you want to use context, we're using the most important piece of context, which is you get paid a certain amount of money to be able to not only be a part of this team, but to lead a section of this team. That's what you're here for. That's a part of the job. All right. So it's almost like players who refuse to speak to media. Bro, you cannot do that. It's a part of the job. Don't be a professional player if you don't want to talk to the media. Right? Go ahead, Jess.
Well, and I was just going to say, I'm not saying that he's not willing to do those things or doesn't help. Anytime that you've heard young players address about it, they will say that he's helpful, but it's just something that he's going to have to continue. And for me, it's the seeking out, and maybe he already does these things. I'm just saying, more than ever, when you're counting on 3/4 of this starting unit being rookies, you really have to make sure that you're a bit of a coach on the field. Like, that's just the way it's going to be, especially during those practice times. Now, again, when you're in the game itself, you got to focus on getting after the quarterback. You can't be watching everything that's going on around it. I get that. But when those practices happen and you're not on the field and you can walk, like you can't just be getting water, hands on the hips, taking in breath. Like you really got to be looking at how those guys are doing and help them. Film room comes around. That's your opportunity to really step up and be that voice. And again, he may already be doing that, but he needs to do it more than ever this year, because that's what's going to help this team be successful.
It's a bunch of young pups on the defensive line this year. All right. It's a lot of guys that are going to need that guidance to get them through. And not particularly just D line, but if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty, edge. All right. Your Tua Gross Matus. You know what I'm saying? You got Mykel Williams that we've already mentioned. You got Sam Aquanu, who's coming in. Bryce Huff that we just got. Robert Bill Jr. All right. Teron Jackson and Jonathan Garvin. Right now, Nick Bosa is by far and away not only the best edge that we have, but he's the most veteran guy that we have. That's got to count for something. We got to get more bang for our buck. So it's not necessarily saying that Nick doesn't do it. Nick's not a good leader. Oh, we're tired of paying this guy this money because he's stealing money. None of that. None of that is true. None of that is what we're trying to say. What we're saying is the expectations of what we're going to need in order for these guys to play to the standard that we are assuming that they want to play to. We're assuming that the 7 guys that we are going to name, if any of these guys say that they do not expect or push for a Super Bowl this season, then they are not the leaders that we think they are on this team. Period. The people that we're going to name. So Nick Bosa's down, man. Let's get into our next guy.
One more thing too that I want to add for him is discipline with mobile quarterbacks. I mean, teams actively seek him out and they use his aggression against him. And that's happened with the Chiefs multiple times. We've seen it in the Super Bowl. We saw it on the big 4th down play. We saw it last year with Kyler Murray on like the first or second play of the game where he ran for like a 70-yard touchdown to start that game out. Mobile quarterbacks and teams use his aggression against him. He really has to find a way to be an edge setter in those situations and be patient. He can't crash down and be a liability in those situations going forward.
Yeah, I agree. It's something where it just boils down to consistency, and we need it. So let me go ahead and get into our next guy. Silverback, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Trent Williams. Now listen, 6'5", 320 pounds, 17th year in the NFL. All right. 9 years with the Washington Commanders, 5 years with what we would call the San Francisco 49ers. Trent Williams is going into his 6th season with the San Francisco 49ers. And he is by far and away. But there are some people that say that Trent Williams is the best player on our team, let alone the best offensive lineman we have. What do we need from Trent Williams this season in order for him to be able to, 1, meet expectations, and 2, live up to the standard?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the surface we can just say, "Oh, just stay healthy." I mean, that's easier said than done. I do believe that there's going to be a time in this season where he's going to have a decision to make. And what I wrote down is don't be the tough guy. Meaning, if you need to miss a game to play in the next 5, then miss that game. There was a couple years ago where he played against the Cleveland Browns, for example. His ankle was hurt. And he felt like, I need to play because Garrett's here. And I think Debo got injured in pregame or something crazy like that. And he's like, the team needs me. Like, I need to be out there. There's nobody that can block Myles Garrett. Well, that ended up being a lingering issue for him for quite a few games because he played in a game that maybe he shouldn't have. And so he's going to miss time. That's just going to happen. He hasn't had a fully healthy season for like 13 years. I highly doubt that that's going to happen this year. Now, if it does, that's amazing. But if there is a situation where you need to miss a game so that you can play in the next 5, do that. Don't sacrifice your long-term health for one game. That one game doesn't override you being a shell of yourself just to make it on the field for the next 3, 4, 5 games. When those situations arise, and I assume that they will, don't be the tough guy, man. Just know your body, respect it, and trust that your team can figure it out and your coach can scheme around it. Like he's going to have to be there for the long haul. So when those situations arise, don't do what you did against the Cleveland Browns. Just let it go, sit it out. They're going to need you for the next few.
For me, keep the engine running. That's my biggest thing with Trent. Trent's a big old Cummins. Trent is a big old Cummins diesel engine, man. And the only way that you keep a Cummins going is if you got to run it. You got to work it. If you get a big old diesel Power Stroke engine in the garage and it's sitting in the lot and you're not using it, that's when you're going to get deaf. That's when you're going to get the knock. That's when all of your stuff is going to start running on you because you're not working the truck. You're not working the engine. You're not putting the miles on it. You're not using the torque. The carburetor isn't switching. The fuel is cold. And that's the biggest thing that I have with Trent. Trent is got to keep moving. Participate in everything. Okay? He does not obviously take your rest as you move along. But the biggest thing for Trent is that he doesn't participate in much. And as he gets older, he takes on these soft tissue injuries and gets these lingering issues that won't go away. And we automatically end up losing him for 3 to 4 games, which honestly equivalates to a month, right? And it's not because he's not participating. They've got to keep him moving. There's only about a finite amount of time that he's going to have to be Trent Williams, all right? But the thing about it is that you're really wasting half of the energy that he has, getting him from stone cold to the engine hot. And that's one of the things that I've always seen with coaches that I've been around, that I played with, even when I was an older player, where, dude, it's almost like the old days. They don't even do it anymore. When's the last time you seen a bike on the sideline? Remember that? Remember we used to look on the sidelines and you see a guy on the bike. Like, I'm staying warm. I am not getting cold. All right. I'd rather move lightly than completely not move at all and have to get warm again. That's my biggest thing with Trent when it comes to playing. I also believe that if there's a method to my madness too, to be honest with you. If you keep him moving, you also regulate his weight. That's another thing that happens with big men when they get older, man. It's hard for them to keep weight down. When you're eating whatever you want, you're an older man, you're working out, but at the same time, you're not working as hard as you used to work. And something's got to give. The only thing to be able to supplant that is to keep his work rate up. And I feel as though is that they keep letting Trent come out and just John Henry it. Like, you know what? I don't need to practice this week. I'll come out and just be Trent Williams. There's only but so many more times that you can do that without him catching like a flash injury because he hasn't practiced, because they're not practicing him hard. You know what? A big thing that is completely disappeared from like Niner discourse when we talk about the team. Remember when we used to talk about, oh my God, it happened for like, Trent's been here, 5 years now? I want to say it happened maybe the first 2 off seasons. What did we hear about every training camp? Dude, the one-on-ones between Trent and Nick were epic. Oh my God. Yep. Those one-on-ones, man. Nick won, Trent won. They were going at it, man. I mean, those one-on-ones were exciting and enticing and intriguing enough to pull down reporters. Where Grant and those guys would fumble over it trying to explain one-on-ones from a lineman perspective. And even if you didn't know technically what you were watching, you knew you were watching something. You knew you were watching iron sharpen iron. Now, it's just funny that we've mentioned the first 2 guys in this list being Nick Bosa and Trent Williams. Where is iron sharpening iron? I don't hear about any of those one-on-ones anymore. I don't hear about those techniques where Trent is at the top of his game. Nick's at the top of his game. They're both trying to beat each other in practice, and that stuff is infectious, right? We don't hear about that stuff anymore. So if I really had to tie up the trenches, honestly, being as though that we picked Nick and Trent for the first 2 guys as leaders, hey, dog, we got to lead with the trenches this year. If you guys aren't the first 2 off the bus, then we've already got it wrong. We've already got it wrong because it starts with the offensive line and the defensive line. So that's what I got for these guys. I want, preferably, we'll be in camp. to be able to see exactly how the intensity gets ramped up. They need to start beating each other up, man. They got to do it.
Yeah, you're talking about pre-injury and managing it, and then I'm saying if you do get injured, which inevitably he probably will, that's you just got to manage it properly. I want to bring this up because this happens every single week.
Let's go.
Steve-O's always got something to say about you sweating, and I gotta set the record straight here.
I'm not sweating.
Coach every single week before we go live is going on 5-mile jogs with his dog. So here's what I would like to do. I would like to put Steve-O with a 10-yard head start and see how long he can stay away from Coach before Coach snatches him up. I would love to see that in person. Can we?
There's no way. Look. I'll tell you this right now. Listen, everybody, those of you that see me at camp, I'm a unit, okay? Don't get it twisted. All right, if you see me at camp, I am a specimen to behold. You understand that you're walking up on an offensive lineman. Steve-O, I will ball you up like old homework and stick you in my back pocket. If I had one chance to get in open field with you, dog, I'd mow you down in the grass. But yes, that is true. I go on 5 to 4 mile hikes with the dog before every show. So that's why I'm always coming in here trying to cool down on top of the fact of all these studio lights. But today, I'm just moisturized. It's not sweat. So get out of here, Steve-O. All right? Steve-O comes in here trying to troll, and you a Packers fan on top of everything. Talk about that. So let's get to our next topic, man. So, and I'm glad you brought that up. All right.
Steve-O is always poking the bear, man. It's so funny.
He's always,
Steve-O, listen, Steve-O is a necessity. I do like it because he talks a little bit of trash. He can also take it. But yeah, no, I would love to see that. Let's give him the 10-yard head start and see how long he can stay away. Because I bet you it ain't long.
Yeah, hey, look, I'm gonna tell you right now, there's a lot of you guys right now. Don't let the chest down crop out fool you. I will mow all you jokers down. Don't get it twisted. All of you. Like I'm in a high percentile, okay? So let's get to the next topic, man. Look, our next player, our next guy, we're going to be using kid gloves. And this is honestly not kid gloves. We're going to take the gloves off, but I'm interested to see what you have to say. Brandon Aiyuk.
This is where you're going to go. Yeah.
He's a leader. He's not going to be here for, let's just call it the first quarter of the season. All right? At least the first 6, right? Because he's going to start the season on PUP. What do you got for BA? Where does he fit in?
Yeah, BA was at his best and really won fanfare when he was the quiet guy, right? And he doesn't have to win us over. I mean, that's not his job. His job is to continue to win his teammates over. And that's really, really hard to do when you're not on the field. Now, what I will say is I love the fact that the reports came out that he's been coaching up the receivers and watching film with them. I think that's great. And I actually think that Aiyuk is one of those guys who is a leader within the team, like within the confines of what's asked for him. I credit him for a lot of what Lenor is. And I know that they're two completely different positions, but the way that he took Lenor under his wings and talked trash to him during practice and would put his arm around him after practice and just have that fun banter with him, I really do believe. And not only that, him going for that contract that year where he dominated in all those practices made Lenor raise his game because Lenor was the one that was often on him in those practices. And so I give him a lot of credit for helping Lenor become who he is in a much faster fashion. But for me, there are a few things. You cannot be a distraction, especially when you're not playing. Correct. I get the social media stuff is fun, and I'm sure that 99% of what he's doing is harmless, and maybe it's meant for us or whoever, but you can't leave anything to chance. Cryptic messages are they just need to be left alone,
What
especially
is
when we
that?
got the season going. And you have to prove that you're a number one. And one thing that I'll say is let's remove the social media stuff, because let's say the team could care less about that. Maybe it's just us drumming up things. We'll assume that. But there was an incident last year, as stupid as it seems, the short incident where he comes in wearing the red shorts and the team is, and then he throws the fit and kicks him in the air and all of that. You can't have those incidences. You have to prove that you're a number one. You have to prove that you're the alpha, but you can do it in a way without being disruptive. And so that's what I look for from him, is to get that quiet leadership back. Get back what it is that got you to this point and focus in on that. Be a leader that I believe he's always been, but do it in the manner that suits you best. This me guy facade that he's put out the last couple of years, I don't believe that it fits him well. I don't think that that's who he truly is.
Yeah.
And it is disappointing to watch from afar at times, because Brandon Aiyuk is a guy who I really like as a player. And I really, over the course of his contract issues through today, will stand up for in a lot of these things and try to make excuses for, because I genuinely think that he's a good dude. And when his heart's in the right place, he can be a leader and be an effective player for this team. But man, you're really making it hard to defend you at times, the outsiders looking in.
I like Brandon. I really do. I think that he's an incredibly hard worker. And just, you can't, I understand that running routes is, a lot of that stuff is God-given ability, but how Brandon Aiyuk has put together his skill set takes tremendous amount of work. And I commend him. I just want him to find his voice. I would love for Brandon to find his voice on the team. And what I mean by that is, like, nobody's telling you that you cannot express yourself. Nobody is saying that you can't feel and speak what you want to feel and speak about the organization that you have. Things are complicated. I get it. Every guy that gets paid a lot of money by his organization isn't head over heels with everybody in the building. It doesn't work that way. We get it, right? There's jobs that I have that I love that, hey, I got to come in with a scalpel on who I really rock with and who I don't. It just happens. But my thing is that I knew that I started becoming a man when I knew how to control myself with my emotional intelligence. And I understood that everything that I needed to say didn't need to be said at the moment. And anything that I had to say, I made sure that I understood who was counting on me before I said it, right? What is this going to do to my brand, my family, the people that are behind me? And I just feel as though that Brandon hasn't gotten there yet in his career where that type of stuff is necessarily at the forefront, right? Where being able to pay attention to your brand, not be a curmudgeon, like the fact that that's even like felt out here in public opinion is not a good look. It's just not, right? So for me, I want Brandon to find his voice. You don't have to stop anything you're doing, but calibrate what you're doing. Figure out better avenues of what you're doing. Social media does not have to be your outlet for you to, voice your displeasure with certain things about the team. On top of the fact that the cryptid stuff, like you said, it gets exhausting after a while. And the worst part about all of it, we could talk about is exhausted. We could talk about your brand. We could talk about how it hurts the team. We could talk about how it makes you look bad, blah, 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 blah. The number one thing that gets hurt from all of this is that it keeps us away from your God-given ability of being a great receiver. That's what really all of this takes away from. And really, I'm not going to go off the rails, but we've seen stories like this where certain athletes, their story becomes bigger than their talent, than their play, and they kind of fizzle away. Odell Beckham is one guy that just comes to mind right off top, where his name got bigger than him, actually, right? So with Brandon, I think that he's in the perfect position Nobody is expecting anything from Brandon Aiyuk or week one. We all know he's not going to be here. On top of the fact that when he first comes out, nobody's going to be expecting him to be hitting the ground running, right? We all expect him to get worked in, which means that Brandon has a good 2 months of literally disappearing and just working into the room, right? Pouring into the guys, making sure that guys understand the technical things about their job that needs to get done, and being able to come in and immediately show worth. I believe that Brandon is in a very good position right now to be able to come through and automatically be a leader. We don't, and the one thing about it is that we don't have a receiver as good as him. Say what you want about him being a number one or him being a glorified number two, whatever you want. But as it stands right now, Brandon Aiyuk is the best receiver on this team. And that's with Jawan Jennings included. I know there's people in here thinking about that, right? So I just want to say, and then also you can't really count on Jawan because Jawan wants a payday. So he may get priced out the game anyway. But with Brandon, I want him to find his voice. I really do. I think if he gets that, everything else will fall into place. You think about it, that's really the only issue with the kid. Great player. When he's on the field, does his level best. Without the ball, he's even as good as he is with the ball, right? Works hard, has a mentor to people on the team. It's just the stupid shit. That's literally what it is, the nonsense. So I think that it's a quick fix.
Yeah, and again, that nonsense is certainly could be a much bigger deal to the fan base and us than it is the guys on the team. But
True.
to act as but there are people that will gaslight and be like, oh, it means nothing. It's like, well, listen, if one teammate has to see it on social media and put any thought into it of like, oh man, like these fans just don't get it. Like, we love BA. It's like, it's just one extra thing that you don't need to see or care about. Like it's not needed. And you can be present on social media, like be completely present. But the cryptic stuff is like, what comes from that? Like, what is the best thing that comes from that? What positive, if you can sell me that there's something positive that comes from it, other than dunking on certain fans or content creators or whatever, then I'm all ears. But I don't know what you gain from being that guy.
No.
Especially when you're not able to be on the field. It's like, listen, if you were on the field and healthy and able to go out and ball and be like, shut up, man, look at me, I'm balling, like, okay, by all means. But right now, like, you're not healthy, and that's not your fault. We know that you're working to get back, and we know that when you're back, you're going to do everything that you can to be the best you can be. But what are you gaining from this? Like, I don't understand anything positive that comes from it. I really don't. And if the next person that tells me something positive can come from it will be the first. So
nah, I don't see anything positive coming from it. I mean, it's giving out low-key crash out vibes. I did want to go over this though. Gabriel Ramirez, the police incident is a big red flag, and it's indicative of poor attitude towards authority and or law enforcement. We are the company we keep. Dude, all right. So, number one, a car that's double parked with a weapon inside of it, all right? Who can control that? Who can control that? Like, you making this comment is almost saying that you know exactly what happened and you know the context in which all the events were laid out. We don't know that. We don't know if Diamador Lenor was with a bunch of friends and he did not know that there was a firearm present. We don't know that. All we know is that Diamador Lenor was being a good friend at the moment, not evading a cop from finding a firearm. So, look, shit happens, right? But I don't necessarily think it's a big red flag, just being honest with you. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm not here to kill you, but I don't think it's that big of a red flag.
Yeah, listen, I agree. I don't think it's that big of a red flag, but I also want to appreciate the take. Like, I can disagree with someone and also understand where they're coming from. I do understand where you're coming from in the sense that, you had the keys in the hand, the police officer asked for the keys, you toss them to a friend. Like, I can understand how you would draw that conclusion. I just have to go more off of what we've seen from him as a player. And there has been nothing to this point that has shown me that he has any issue with authority to leadership or coaching or anything like that. Now, maybe in a couple years something gets out and we're like, the signs were there, and he was right. But I have to look at, I can't let one incident in the public eye mold and override everything we've seen to this point about Deommodore Lenor.
Yeah, I mean, look, I see Papa J says, Coach, was he being a good friend or just ignorant to the situation? Both.
Yeah, who knows?
Right? In certain ways, you never know what when you make decisions in the moment, you don't know all of the consequences that entail, right? So look, I'm glad that it could have escalated to anything. I mean, we're kind of lucky that it was a one-off. But look, let's get into the next topic. This guy is the golden boy of them all. Mr. Can Do No Wrong. Already a leader in the thickest hours, the darkest times. The one and only Fred Warner. Expectations and standards from one Fred Warner. Is Fred really Fred Warner's full name? Is he a Frederick? We need to find that out. Is Fred a Frederick or is he a Frederick?
No, I feel
Frederick
like
Warner.
I feel like he's like a 3-name guy. Like, you know what I mean? I forget. There's something like his middle name is. There's something up with his name. I forget exactly the details.
What if he was an Alfred? What if Fred is Alfred?
I don't know. Maybe Fred's his middle name or something. There is something up with his name though. I swear I could be tripping, but there is something up with his name. To where like Fred may not be his real name or something. There's something. I forget what it is. Anyways, I'll have to look it up. Maybe I'm just tripping. I don't know. Either way, when I look at Fred Warner, I mean, Fred Warner is great. Fred Warner is pound for pound the best linebacker in the NFL right now, in my opinion. That being said, Fred Warner has some glaring weaknesses to his game. And those weaknesses were covered up by Dre Greenlaw. Those two were great for each other. And by the way, Fred covered up some of Dre's weaknesses too. Like, don't get it twisted. It's not like Fred was just freeloading off of Dre being next to him. Like, Dre was better because Fred was next to him.
They were good for each other. They were good for each other.
They were perfect fits. Now, they've drafted 2 players that are in the mold of Greenlaw. And we will see if either one of them can ever get to that point or fill some of the role that Greenlaw is leaving behind. But what I will say is there is no guarantee. And Fred might be a little bit of a lone soldier at the linebacker position for at least this year. Like, that's a real possibility. So some of the areas where he can improve, to me, I don't know that statistics are going to measure this, but this is going to have to be his most versatile season. And what I mean by that is he's going to have to raise his game as a run defender. He's going to have to raise his game as a blitzer. I will say, as a blitzer, that's probably the biggest weakness in his game throughout his career. As a run defender, he's been middle of the pack, top 12, top 15-ish linebacker in the league as a blitzer. A couple times throughout his career, but those couple times again were with Fred Warner, with Dre Greenlaw at his best. So can he be that without Dre Greenlaw next to him? That's one, as a run defender. And then as a blitzer, can he show something as a blitzer, be a threat as a blitzer, a real difference maker as a blitzer? Because to this point, that's not something that he's been asked to do a ton. And I don't know that it's a strength of his. In fact, I know it's not a strength of his. So this is going to have to be the most versatile season from him. He's going to have to be everywhere because, quite frankly, he's going to be making up for some of the mistakes that are going to be next to him. And so for Fred Warner, that's what I look for. Fred Warner does all the things that you look for from a leadership standpoint. I'm not going to sit here and be like, whoa, like we're doing with Bosa and some of these other guys, like, we really got to say, no, Fred Warner is the guy that when they traded Trey Lance was asked to go to the podium like he was running the damn team.
Like he was the guy.
He was the guy. So from a leadership aspect, It is as good as it gets from a player. That is Fred Warner. There is nothing to be desired from that standpoint. As a guy in pass coverage, there is nothing to be desired. But he is going to have to take some of those slight holes in his game and make them areas where he can be a versatile player, a do-it-all player, and cover, quite frankly, for some of the weaknesses that are going to be next to him for the most part this season.
Federico Anthony Warner. We need Fred Warner. Federico, we need you, dog. I'm calling Fred Federico all season. I love it. It's much better than Fred, honestly. Fred kind of gives off like plumber vibes, but I love Federico. You know what I'm saying? It gives depth. And it's his full name. It's his
Federico Anthony Warner, yeah.
His name is in it. Federico Anthony Warner.
There it is.
We need you, Federico El Capitan. Okay? You're right. Fred is the leader of this entire team, not just the linebacker. I love what you touched on with the linebacking crew because all of that is good. And it's succinct. It lines up. We got to find a running mate for Fred that's going to be able to take off the brunt of filling gaps, and we need a bubble filler. All right, we need somebody to burst the bubble. Fred goes over the top of the bubble and fills. It was always Dre's job to burst the bubble and come down in the gap. All right, we got to find a running mate for Fred. I don't know if it's going to be Nick Martin. I personally believe Nick Martin is going to be a safety teams merchant for us. I don't know. We got to see it, but I think that D winners may be up to the task. One thing that I will say about Fred is that we love the consistency from Fred, and we're going to need it this season more times than ever because everything isn't going to be good, right? And one thing, I give Fred a really hard time. If you've watched any of my live watch show parties, the last thing that I want to do and talk about after a loss is somebody trying to be positive and giving the company line. But it's needed. It does give continuity. It does show other guys that the floor hasn't fallen out if things are bad. All right. Also, one thing that I'm going to need Fred for is that Fred is going to have to be, in my opinion, he's going to have to be kind of like the championship compass of this team. All right. Meaning that he is the one that's going to have to be able to call out certain areas of the season where they need to push through, where they need to be able to be weary of trap games. Understanding what it's like to be able to double up on a team and get an NFC win. Understanding that even though we're going all the way out to the East to go play the Giants, we need this win, okay? Somebody needs to be able to talk to these young pups about our history with not the Chicago Bears, but the Cleveland Browns, where we always go out there and have a tough day. Those are the times that I'm going to be dependent on Fred to be that force multiplier for us. Also, stay healthy. One thing that also dipped in Fred's production, if in my opinion, for me, Fred was looking like the defensive player of the year for like the first quarter of the season. Like stopping drives, doing everything. It wasn't until he actually had, I believe he had a fractured ankle that kind of kept him down. So my biggest thing right now is just take care of yourself, OG. Already a Hall of Famer playing. That's when you know you're a dog, when you're a Hall of Famer and you're not done playing yet. But we're going to need Fred. It's going to be important to actually have him. And I will say, if there's anybody that's going to toe the line as far as keeping the culture, it's going to be Fred. Federico, we salute you.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point last year, and it was before we knew that his ankle was hurt, but he started out on fire the first like 4 or 5 games of the season. And then there was like a 5-game stretch where I put it out on Twitter and then talked about it in my show where he'd given up like 39 straight receptions. Like he was targeted 39 times and gave up 39 receptions, which is insane. I'm like, something's wrong. Like Fred is not playing like Fred. And at that time we didn't know he was injured. And then we later found out, he was playing through an ankle thing for sure. So, health. I think for all these guys, obviously, the health is like the obvious low-hanging fruit. And he's no different. He's no different.
Hey, I love it. So, hey, Fred's the guy. Let's move on into our next guy who we all know and love. George Krieger Kittle. Now let's get into it. All right. We're going middle names this season. Federico Anthony Warner just gave me I just got inspired. All right. I got to be honest. We talk about leaders. George has a special leadership role on this team because he's a tight end. And customarily, tight ends aren't leaders. Not even that, but not only leaders, but not necessarily vocal leaders. George not only is a vocal leader, but I think that George also is one of those leaders that can cross lines. We've seen George not only coach up his guys, coach up young guys, give motivation, but this goes all the way up to coach. George can talk to Brock Purdy, talk to him about what he can expect, all the way up until talking about coaches. George has literally psychoanalyzed Kyle at the podium at times. Well, he did this last year, and I think we're moving on this. So George is a very intelligent member of this team. I feel as though that if you truly listen to what George has to say, he does speak the truth. You just have to listen to what he's trying to say. And I think that George is also one of the most selfless leaders on this team who does not get as much recognition for what he does on this team. And I'm talking, this is after we've gone through Nick Bosa and Trent Williams. I don't think that George Kittle gets enough credit more than more than Trent Williams or Nick Bosa. One thing I will tell you is that, golly, when he's always bailing us out, whether it be in our sixth offensive lineman with a shaky blocking scheme, or saving our receiving crew when they can't get open, all of a sudden reemerging to our red zone threat when it's clearly an afterthought or not even prepared for. What? The hardest thing for me with George Kittle, Jesse, was trying to figure out what expectations could I possibly have for George, and what standard could what standard could we actually put in front of him that he hasn't already met? That's what's hard for George. Talk to me.
I put down selfish over selfless. For the first time in his career, I want him to be selfish in college football. This is there is no way that I should be able to look at his numbers and look at George Kittle playing a full season and getting less targets than his counterpart over in Arizona got catches. All right. You are the best tight end in the NFL. They signed a guy to come in and take that blocking role. There are injuries at wide receiver. They lost Deebo Samuel. Aiyuk is going to potentially miss the first few games. The guy you signed might be suspended to start the season. They're going to rely on young wide receivers. You have to be the guy in the passing game. You have to call for the rock. You have to go in those meetings when the game plan is being built and tell coach, listen, I've been the perfect soldier for this team for many years. I've been selfless. Today, I need to be selfish. I need 15 targets. I need double-digit touchdowns this year for the second time in my career.
Cook.
He needs to be selfish for the first time in his illustrious Hall of Fame caliber career for this team to be at its best, in my opinion.
Dog, I love that shit. Hey, every time we give takes, that's the way you give takes. Every time. Just like that, Jesse. Because that is 100% true. Cook! You were cooking! If there's anybody that needs to be selfish and demand the ball, demand a role, it is George Kittle. I do not want to see any more of these deep overs, these China route concepts, these guys falling over themselves. Give the ball to George. It's the easiest play that you can make, man. And for what? And for how much work he gives us. Jesse, you cooked. I don't even want to step on this with my take. Fuck my take. Your take was way better than what I was going to say. Look at these numbers, bro. 4 receptions for 40 yards. Are you crazy? 4 receptions for 45 yards. Come on, man.
One game with double-digit targets, man. That's just not the best.
Come on,
in
man.
the game has one game. Go
to
Trey McBride. Go pull up Trey McBride real quick.
Pulling up Trey McBride, bro. Stop playing games with me, bro. I'm gonna pull up Trey McBride. You ain't saying nothing to me.
Trey McBride had more receptions than George Kittle had targets. I think like 16 more.
Hold on.
And he only had 40 more yards and less touchdowns. But let's go look at his targets.
He had 111 receptions, 147
targets to 96. George Kittle had 96 targets.
That's insane. He's got more receptions than George.
He had double digits.
Man, let's do this, man. Run the numbers.
And Trey McBride's a good player, but look at all
bro.
Those
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He had 7 games with double digits. 16 targets against the Rams. My God. This is embarrassing.
Yep.
Yeah. George has got it. We got to get George more. We got to get George more funk. You know what I'm saying? He need more funk, man. I'm sorry. There's no more. I'm praying this is why we got the Farrell kid, because George needs to be a fixture in the passing game. This is bad.
Yep.
No way around it. Look, let's get into our last guy. You know where we're going.
We got we got a few.
2 more. We got 2 more. 2 more.
We should have Lenor, CMC, and Purdy, yeah?
Yeah. 3.
Okay.
All right. So look, our next guy, CMC. What we got, man?
I think we're going to be very, very similar here. And since I stepped on your take on the last one, why don't you take this one, and then I'll add anything if I have it.
All right, man. Look, bro. It all starts with you, Christian. Let me just get a little PSA. If Christian was watching this is what I would say to Christian. Hey, man, how you doing? Love the career. Bro, you're in a position right now where you need to start paying attention to putting the finishing touches on what is a great career, okay? And you deserve to be seen as a starting running back in the NFL at all times. And the only way that you're going to be able to keep that status is if you relinquish some of your workload. You have to, okay? Now, does that mean that you play less? No. You could still be on the field. You could still be a decoy. You could be on backside back on ISO, or you could also be in the passing game in the slot. But you need to start understanding that Father Time is undefeated, my G. All right? And you need to start taking care of yourself from a standpoint of, I don't want to hear about Christian doesn't want to be taken off the field. For what? For what? We need you for the entire season, dude. Come off the field. Give these dudes 10 carries to split amongst themselves to save you. All right? If you want to be on the field at all times, I have to think that you are a selfish player. I have to. Because there is no way that you could logically believe that if you don't start sharing some of your workload, that you're not going to be there for your team when they need you most deeper in the season. Simply put, as a running back, we need you. We need your presence. You cannot be hurt sitting on the sidelines with the massage gun. That doesn't help us. On top of the fact that you owe that stunt you pulled last offseason with your ass getting paid as the highest paid running back in the league. Dog, the till is up. You owe. You don't owe us for you to die on your sword. Nobody wants that fake hustle martyr bullshit. Be a part of the team. Give up some of your carries so we can use you the right way. Go ahead, Jess.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, in so many words, that's basically what I put. He needs to stop treating his backups like their competition and realize that they're there to support him. I mean, you're at a point in your career now where you've gotten all the big paydays that you're going to get. So you don't need to be on the field 100% of the time. You have to protect yourself, and you have to look at those guys as if they are there to support your career and your longevity and you being at your best when this team needs it most. Versus 2 years ago, he truly treated it like they were competition, and they're not. Bro, you're the guy. You are the guy. And you got your final big payday. Accept it. It is what it is.
Yep.
This team is not going to be at its best without you being healthy. You need to sit out 20% of the snaps. And that you just have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like that's one of the things with Christian that completely throws me off is that, bro, it doesn't move me about like, you know, the Paul Bunyan stories about Christian won't even come off the field during practice. Like that doesn't help us. Get off the field, man.
And his wife posting his bruises in midweek, like, oh, look at us. Like, no, I don't care about that, man. Like, protect yourself.
Thank you. It's like I just don't think that any of that stuff helps us in the long run. All right. One thing I'll tell you is that you need to also be a little bit more secure with being the OG. All right. I understand that you've been fighting from the bottom and that you've been little Stanford Christian McCafrrey your entire career. You got to lose that. You're one of the older statesmen in the league, if not on your team. All right. And older guys understand that they got to give a little for the young pups to come up. That's just the truth. Can't be some guy that's completely just stricken to your story, because that's what I see when I see him play. A lot of it's like, they helped. Nobody wanted to give me a shot. I got to prove to the rest of the league. It's like, bro, you don't have to prove anything. You're Christian McCaffrey. We need you. All right. Enough of these guys going out to show the league who they are. They all did it. And they did it in the guise of being a part of the team. And because a lot of them were doing it at the same time, they ended up liking each other. And they happen to have the same logo on. But the truth of the matter is that they're all independent contractors and that they all were trying to selfishly pump up their careers to do better. And they all were trying to put the name out for themselves when they were going to Super Bowls. That's part of the reason why we weren't winning them. Because we were beating people during games, it was a big me fest for a lot of these guys playing together. But then we got into the playoffs and we started playing real teams. All right? With coaches that actually know how to sit guys down and the ego's not there. So, listen, a lot of these guys, specifically Christian, I'm really interested in seeing what are these guys going to do for the team. Not so we can walk away and say, God damn, Christian's a warrior. No, for the team. Not so we can walk away and say, man, Trent's a dog when he plays. No, for the team. We need you to play. We need you here, Christian. The tough streets of Stanford. That's what I'm talking about, Levy. Come on, man. And everybody knows you with the Bel Air Academy. It's cool. All right, bro. So let's move into our next guy. We already know this guy. And we've already talked about him today. Lenor. Demo. Look.
Absolutely.
Just got paid. You've been chirping. You've been letting everybody know you're here. You've been setting it out, taking names and kicking asses. I understand. But now it's time for you to be that guy week in and week out. And I'm going to tell you, it can get lonely on that island, brother. So what do you got for Lenor as far as expectations and standards coming into the season?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to establish himself as a top 10 corner. And I know that 49er fans think he's already there. I disagree. I disagree with that. He hasn't been asked to be the number one guy yet. There's a lot of guys. I'll use NBA as a reference. There's a lot of guys who can score 20, 25 points on bad teams, but once they are the leader on a good team, they can no longer do those things. I'm not saying that's Lenor, but this is the first season where he's entering as the best corner on the team. It just is. Charvarius Ward has been that guy. Now, I think he can do it. I expect that he does it. His paycheck says that he will do it, but he has to establish that. And I think the other thing that I look for from him, he's one of those guys who really, he has to get himself up. And the way he gets himself up and ready for a game is by talking trash to people across from him. And I'm good with that. But at this point, we don't know what the game plans are going to call for. We don't know what Robert Saleh is going to see in these team meetings. And you might be writing checks that your teammates have to cash, and that's not fair. Now, if you're going to travel with these guys and be on the number one wide receiver week in and week out, do your thing. But I don't know that that's what the game plan is going to call for. And so you out here telling every receiver in your division that they suck, and now that DK Metcalf has gone elsewhere, there's nobody good to be here. You may not be on the best guy week in and week out. That may not be what the game plan calls for. And now your teammates who aren't as established as you, and quite frankly, aren't as good as you, have got to go cash the check that your mouth put out there. So for me, listen, I love talking trash. I love all that, but do it a little bit more between the lines. And when you get those matchups, prove that you are a top 10 corner. Go out and show that. And that's what I look for from Demo.
One thing that I want to mention is Deommodore Lenor has no middle name. I've been searching throughout this entire take. There's no middle name, guys. I'm sorry. We've got Brock's middle name. It's going to be good. It's fitting. But I agree, Jesse. He's going to have to slow down a little bit. It's going to be a long season. And one thing about being a DB is that it's a high-profile position. And once you start getting beat, there's a consequence for getting beat. People keep going back to the well. They keep singling you out. And what happens is that when you get pushed off your block, it's hard for you to go back and run your block. Can't get ran off your block. So for me, Deommodore Lenor, I love him. I too think that he's going to have to start proving. He's going to have to start backing up something that a lot of the stuff that he said, because truthfully, a lot of the commentary that he's saying right now is really, he's out talking his play. I have not seen Deommodore Lenor play at a consistent enough level for me to be okay with how he's speaking in social media. I'm not. Flat out, right? If he had came in and taken his lumps, and he's got the wars, and he's seen the Jay Jettas, he's seen the Chases, he's seen the AJ Browns, and we already know what Deommodore Lenor is. Look, I'd be okay with it. But one thing about Deommodore Lenor that I would say is that now you're a leader, brother. You know what I'm saying? Now you're a leader. So one thing that sucked when I ran my own business is that, man, I was a locker room guy, bro. I was the quintessential locker room guy. I love hijinks. I love kicking it with the fellas. I'm the dude playing dice and spades and dominoes in between camp. That's me. I'm a locker room guy. But when you become a leader, you can't be a locker room guy anymore. That's one of the number one things that you got to give up. You got to give up all of that emotional masturbation where you just get to say anything you want and act any way you want to. People are watching you. So my biggest thing with Deommodore Lenor is understanding how he's going to be a leader this year with being able to corral his temper. I need because he's going to lead a lot more poise than he is rage this year. Trust me. So I hope that he uses it. Last guy, and then we're out of here. Brocculus Richard Purdy. We know about him. We've heard. The $256 million man, $52 million a year. The guy that proved Jesse wrong, told Jesse, oh, wait till I get paid. Well, now I got paid, Jess, and it was team friendly. How you like me now? Jesse, this one is all you. What you got for Brock? What do you got for him? What are the expectations and the standards that you see for Brock? And you know what? Be forewarned, because he's not getting paid like a top 5 quarterback. So I don't want to hear all of this Joe Montana, Sammy Ball, Johnny Unitas, Peyton Manning, all of this theatrics that he needs to do. I want you to find a way to talk about Brock like a leader, but also like the 7th highest paid quarterback in the league who has on a team-friendly deal. Be fair.
I actually, it's funny. You don't even have to say that because I've only written down two things for Brock, and I don't think either one of them are unfair expectations.
Okay.
Um, I don't need him to lead the league in this stat or that stat. I just want him to protect the football. Like that's the number one thing. Just protect the football. If there's a single on the field, take the single. You don't have to be a home run hitter, play in and play out.
Mm-hmm.
Protect the football, play within the confines of the system. And obviously, I mean, this is not saying he has to all be, he's not a playmaker or can't, has to be 100% a system guy, but play within the confines when it's there. If CMC, especially if CMC's on the field, you have to find a way to just check down the ball when it's available to you. You don't have to go for Jawan Jennings and double coverage down the right sideline. Like that doesn't have to be your game. So just protect the football. That's number one. And number two, continue to grow your leadership. One thing that I will say about Brock Purdy is that it is clear to me that he's a leader in the huddle. And he's going to have to be even more of that, especially if he's surrounded by young receivers. Like he's going to have to get in on those young wide receivers, let them know when they're running the wrong routes, coach them when a play's
There
over
you go.
and make those guys better. But he can't, I don't want him to be the aw shucks, I'm just one of the guys. I'm just happy to be here like that. All that is over now. So when you're on the
Yeah.
podium, listen, he takes responsibility. He is not French like Jimmy Garoppolo, who all of a sudden goes, we, when the problems arise. He has always been, it's a me, it's my problem. And then he does a great job of giving credit to his teammates. But when those leadership questions come up and he's on the podium, be the leader. You can't be, it's those guys. They didn't know. You are the guy, man. You are the man now. Realize that. Be confident in that and exude that. That's all I look for from Brock Purdy. So it's not a long list. I'm not going to ask for any crazy expectations, but those are the two things that I have.
I got one thing and one thing only. Get a role and work it. And what I mean by that is what you mentioned in talking about Brock being a stickler. Like if you want to be a stickler for what the receivers and what everybody's supposed to be doing, then be that, right? If you want to be a guy who understands game management, then do that. I feel like if you're at quarterback, one of the most advantageous positions about being in quarterback is that you get a chance to see the whole team's infrastructure and you get to pick on how you want to close the loop. You get to actually pick what you don't want to fall between the cracks because everything is done for you. So you're the guy that can come in and start talking to the offensive line about their splits, getting guys together in protections, helping out Jake Brindle with getting mics and things set up, talking to the receivers about their depth, knowing where their splits are, understanding where their drops are. And some guys would say, well, that's what a quarterback is supposed to do. No. A quarterback is supposed to know that stuff, but it takes a leader to actually turn that stuff into direction where people expect that type of stuff from you. I want Brock to turn into the stickler of the offense, almost so much so that he keeps Kyle Shanahan on his toes. I think that that's a role for Brock that would thrive on a team that needs to create consistency. Someone that is paying attention to the small things. How many games did we start last year? And forget the opponent. Forget what was going on. We just looked like an unprepared, sloppy team. Clock wasn't on point. We're not ahead of the clock. We can't hurry anything up. Also, I think that if Brock virtue signals towards being that type of player, it will push Kyle to put more on his plate, right? We need a 2-minute offense. We need a hurry-up offense. We need to be able to change tempo. Everything can't be this one tempo coming out, making sure that everything is done so Brock understands. We need to be able to lean on Brock mentally. That's what you can do to the 7th highest paid quarterback where you expect it, right? Where you're saying to yourself, all right, well, athletically, there's much to be desired as far as the top guys are concerned. All right, he's not getting paid top 5 money. He didn't reset the market. All right, well, what do we get? Do we get a guy who's supposed to just be the best that he is? Or is there something that we can look at that we can expect no matter what every game. I think that is a perfect job description to put on Brock with what he's getting paid, where, dude, running the offense smoothly should be 100% on you. 100% on you. I don't want to see a delay a game. I want to see you digging in guys' ass on false starts. I want to see you cursing people out. The old Brock, this is so crazy because we've had him for 3 years going on 4, but I remember when Brock, he was so young, he didn't know what he didn't know. This is Brock telling George to shut the fuck up in the huddle, where all he knows is ball, but he doesn't know who he's talking to, right? I feel as though that, like you said, Brock is taking over this all shucks, I'm going to be this diplomatic guy, this humble guy that comes in and I just know my job and I wish the best for everybody. It's time for him to take on a persona. We need him to grow teeth, right? And that's one thing that I'll say is that one thing about it is that if you're not going to be the guy that everybody follows because, oh, Brock can throw a country mile and, you know, he's Lamar Jackson, he could run all over the place. I at least want you to be the guy that when people see you coming in the room, they're like, oh, shit, here this motherfucker come. You got your playbook on you? You know he's going to say something about that. Oh, my God. Yo, get in the huddle. You know he's not playing that. Get in the huddle. Run your route the right way. One thing about the greats, if I even want to take it there, one thing about every quarterback that I ever played with that I thought was very good is that the quarterback was not the friend of the team. I never played with or coached over a quarterback that was good, that was cool with everybody. There's got to be a healthy level of fear when the man walks in the room because he's about business. I think Brock needs to take that mantle over. It'll help him. It will help him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes with time too. You know, I look at Brock as one of those guys that can and would grow into that. I do think there are players that you look at across the NFL and you're just like, you're never going to be that guy. Like, it's not in your DNA. And I do think that it is in Brock's DNA. Unfortunately, he has to grow into it quicker than ever because this team is in a position where they need it more than ever. It's coming fast. It's coming fast.
Good. Hey, man, let's get a couple of super chats so we can get up out of here, bro.
All right.
Nick Talks Niners. Member for 9 months, man. Member of
Thank you, Nick. That's awesome.
Dang, Nick. Hell yeah. Let's go. What's good, Jesse and Coach? What's good, brother? Dave Barclay, 4367. Our good boy Dave. Carburetor Coach. Let's say our age without saying it. Mm-hmm. Say your age first. We got on here talking about power wagons and Sierras and four-wheelers, bro. You know that we're old men. We care about driving off-road.
Yeah.
It's over for us. We missed our young boy window. Daza 0187. If the Niners had have treated BA from the get-go through to now, including contract re-up, the same the Lions did with Amon-Ra, do you think things would be as volatile? No.
Probably not, but I mean, you can't control what happens to you. You can only control how you react. So, I mean, as much as you can just say, oh, well, you know, the 49ers messed up and could have done this, that may be true, but once it happens, BA has to take responsibility from that point on. So
I agree. Tommy Huxley, Chef Jesse Cookie, yo, you so cooked. You cooked, bro. You cooked on what was that? The CMC topic?
Kittle
top. You cooked, bro. You cooked. Splendiferous. This is why I like Jesse. That face is famous, dog. Jesse is getting famous out here, bro. We love it. Hey, man, what do we got? We got the 4-man front tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we do. It's over on Ryan's channel. Yeah.
So tomorrow we got the 4-man front. I'm doing a call-in show tomorrow too, man. Gonna do something a little different, bro. I missed this weekend, flamed out, but I'm gonna do it tomorrow. Guys, this is the coach, and this is Jesse Naylor signing off. Stay low and keep your feet moving. Talk to you guys. Peace.